I'd like to call the meeting to order. The Board of Leavenworth County Commissioners. I'd like to invite everyone to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For the record, all three commissioners are present. I'd like to thank everyone for coming. Good to see former Commissioner Don Novinsky here today. I'd like to start with public comment. Anyone from the public wishing to speak, please come forward to state your name and address. Seeing none, we'll move on to administrative business. Mark, David, have any administrative business this time?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I do. Quite frankly, I'd like to let you know that as of today or this morning, there are 3 fence viewings which I will undertake to have conducted in the very near future. 2 of them have been pending for quite some time. One we very recently received. In visiting with the Register of Deeds office, I think what we can accomplish from this point forward is when the board conducts a fence viewing or has a fence viewing conducted, to more formally process it through the registration with the Register of Deeds so that this board and future boards do not have repeat instances of viewing the same fence. Under Kansas law, if 2 adjoining property owners have what is deemed to be a partition fence, it is the duty of the board to view any situation where there's an allegation an insufficient fence exists. It does not deal with boundary disputes. The state standard for fencing is rather archaic and minimal. However, what I would like to let you know is I will process those. What we'll do is record the findings with the Register of Deeds so that they can then be enforced in the state district court as a matter of law, which people are entitled to do. And under Kansas law, you are required to fence your animals in and are subject to liability for damage caused by them should they escape. But I just wanted to give you the heads up on that. We do take requests for fence viewing seriously, and I will endeavor to have those 3 completed in the very near future.
And we don't take, take anything on neighbor disputes.
The purpose of a fence viewing is not to determine a boundary, but it is to determine whether a partition fence is defined by Kansas law exists, and if there is a partition fence, is it sufficient under Kansas law?
One question I'd like to ask you, David. I've had this asked to me just recently about a fence viewing, and they said that the neighbor's fence is not in the right place, and that he needs to move the fence farther over on his property because he had it surveyed. But we don't get into that part.
No, sir. Again, you do not have the authority nor responsibility to determine boundary lines. That's a matter between private parties.
Okay. I didn't think so.
Is there any fees associated with fence viewings?
Commissioners, I did want to mention this. You did adopt a policy in February of this year as to the process for conducting fence viewing. Currently, and I think it's the same since the 1860s, each fence viewer is entitled to $7.50 per day in expenses. Plus, there will be the recording fees with the Register of Deeds office. So I was going to propose to the board in the near future formally adopting a policy as to whether you wish to waive the $7.50 per viewer fee. If so, is it to be under Kansas law, it should be paid by the person requesting the fence viewing up front and then divided equally between the parties. How to handle those expenses? They will be minimal. I'd like to create a situation where the county staff and property owners don't expend more time in processing the fee than the actual fee itself.
Right.
David,
Yes, sir.
does the county have any responsibility or authority to challenge I'll use the word quality of the fence?
Kansas fence laws are rather interesting if you're into that to read, because a lot of them are unchanged from the 1860s and 70s. It still references the use of hedges as fences. piles of sod can be considered a fence. Kansas has certain minimum standards which a Board of County Commissioners can review, and if you wish to impose standards greater than the state minimums, you can consider those. There's a process to go through. But generally, they're minimal standards. Under Kansas law, 3 strands of barbed wire at certain heights constitutes a legal fence. 1 strand of electrified wire constitutes a legal fence, and it varies with respect to different animals as well.
In other words, 3 strands of twine would not constitute a fence.
It references barbed wire.
I guess this kind of plays into our discussion on fence standards. Mr. Novinsky, you have miles and miles of fence. Would you support county enforcing or adopting fence standards for farmers? Well, I apologize for putting you on the spot, but I do know you have miles and miles of fence.
Well, I would like to add to that question. This would not be coming out because you have fence already up. This would not be us inspecting your fence all the time. This would be just in a fence viewing. If Joe Blow over here built a 5-strand barbed wire fence with hedge posts and very good corner posts, and he keeps his livestock in, and then John Doe over here, he doesn't put anything up. He's got 1 strand and it's this far off the ground, and so of course the cattle walk back and forth and back and forth. To me, those 2 sections of fence are totally different, and that's when the fence viewing comes in, that we ought to be able to make them put up a 5-strand barbed wire fence. I think you'll agree with me, Don, that a 5-strand will do a lot better job than a 3.
Let me answer his question.
Okay.
I think that you're going to get into that situation from what you thought. I've inspected several fences when I set up there. Now, if they got a 3-strand and it is old and everything else, we declare a fence. We say, hey, they had a fence that's outlived its time. I hate to get into the situation, but the hog situation would be the same thing. As county commissioners, you have the right to say, your fence, when you go out to do it, is
Into life.
sufficient. You may have what the law says, but you can still say that isn't sufficient to hold the livestock that you have when you write that up. And then the question you talk about, the $7.50, I thought it used to be $10 per commissioner. Has that changed? $7.50. I would not do away with that. We always gave it right back and put it in the county general.
Right.
But still, the people, otherwise, everybody's going to want to say, well, I can get this for nothing. I want a fence view. You know, your time is, it doesn't measure your time. I've tramped through weeds and got ticks so bad it was pitiful and everything else, but you have to do it.
I think,
No, I don't think I would support that, because I think you're going to open yourself up to a whole can of worms on the specifications of the fence. But you have the right to say, you may have 3 wires there, but they're outlived, they're not up, everything is wrong.
so you would support just leaving as the state has mandated?
Yes.
Okay.
And like I said, the only concern I'd have about the barbed wire, but what if one property owner has cattle and the other property owner has horses, and horses don't like barbed wire?
Right.
That'd be the only, there would be a lot of details to work out, and it would take quite a bit to come up with a standard that would apply to everybody.
Person that has horses doesn't want to get in the fence and get all cut up.
Right. So I'd hate to be the one saying you gotta have barbed wire, and all of a sudden start seeing a bunch of veterinary bills. So,
But, when my cattle get out to the neighbors and even though the fence ain't there, you know who's liable for the damage?
you are.
Right.
I am. And that damage,
All right. Thank you, Don. Sorry about putting you on the spot. So we will be going on some fence viewings, and is that correct?
Kansas law used to require each of the commissioners to serve as a fence viewer. You now have the authority to appoint others in your place, and you've done so. So I'll be notifying the fence viewing team of 3, as well as the property owners as to the time and place of the fence viewing.
All right, thank you, David. Has commissioners had a chance to look at the minutes?
I have.
I move approval. I see no changes necessary.
Second.
Voting?
Aye.
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 We have no OCBs today. The agenda for next week. Any questions on that?
I'm think.
You got a question on it?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
On August 17th, we're going to have public hearing for the 2018 budget.
Uh-huh.
When the budget was kind of finalized, I was unfortunately not here. I was out of town. I would like to be brought update on what was approved and what was not approved, and Mark has given me a rough idea, but I have had to go back and ask him questions because I don't think I was properly addressed on some of these things because
Okay. Is that something Mark can do outside of a meeting, or do you have any specific questions?
yeah, I can do
I thought we didn't already address them, but sure.
but I don't think we have addressed them all.
Okay.
And we can,
Happy to answer
and we can
questions.
address it in the public hearing part too, but yeah.
Yeah, I'll get with
Give
Mark.
him
then.
Mark.
Okay.
All right.
I move approval of the agenda then.
Second.
Voting.
Aye.
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 Okay. Now we're ready for county surveyor's report on vacation road.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Been a while.
Yes, it has.
Before you, we'll go through our standard procedure for a vacation dedicated roadway. In this case, we had a petition for a road in the south line of Section 17, Township 11, Range 22, which also borders Section 20. There was a plat going in on the north line, and it was deemed that we need to vacate that right away to clear county liability. There's
Is
no-
that between 182nd and 187 or 178th?
Between 182nd, 178th on what would be Kansas Now Avenue. Yes.
Yeah. And it's called,
It's dedicated as Shilbert Road. It's a 50-foot dedication, originally dedicated in 1889. Originally, it would stop at 182nd Street. There is no feasible way that a road in anyone's lifetime here would probably be constructed there due to topography. There are no utilities existing in the 50-foot area. There are 3 adjacent landowners. One of them is the petitioner. I've spoken to the other 2 when I sent the letters to them, notifying them of the vacation. They've had no objections to it. There's no impact to the property owners. They didn't even realize there was an open right-of-way there before. It changes no boundaries. There's no impact as well as far as the county, as far as changing of any maintenance or anything of that nature. It would be Board Order 2017-04. I'd be glad to answer any questions if you may have some.
Does this require a public hearing?
This does require a public hearing, yes.
Do we have to schedule that, or can we just do it today?
We can just do it today, but there's no change. They are aware it's been advertised as a public hearing.
If notice has been sent out, Commissioner, you can proceed to the public hearing. The criteria to be applied by the board is whether or not this road, as currently dedicated, serves as a public utility. If it does not, you may then vacate it.
Okay, so we need to open up a public hearing for this.
Yes, sir.
We'll go out of regular session and go into public hearing for the road vacation portion. Schobert Road, dedicated in 1889.
I don't think we're gonna do anything by now.
Probably not. Anyone here to speak against this? Anyone here to speak for it? Seeing none, I guess we'll close that portion of public hearing and go back to regular session. Anyone got a
I'll make a
motion?
motion to vacate, what is it, 50 foot?
It's a 50-foot dedication. Yes.
Yeah, 50-foot dedication of Schobert Road, from between 182nd and 178th.
Second.
Voting.
Aye.
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 Do you have any board order, Commissioners?
We need to.
We'll need to approve a board order number,
Okay.
and it'll be on there.
Motion to approve board order number 2017-04.
Second.
Voting.
Aye.
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 Thank you, Wayne.
Great, thank you, Commissioners.
We are ready for the Public Works. Mr. Hahn, how are you today?
I'm all right.
He always comes up here with the big money items.
Yeah,
And then
I
you would-
have two small items this morning.
Small items.
Oh,
The first
What do you
item I
post?
have is, we don't currently have a backup HVAC system for our server room downstairs. So if the air conditioner goes out, that room gets hot in a hurry. We would like to put a backup air conditioner in that room.
And this has happened like twice?
Yeah, it's
Recent?
happened twice
In the last
6
year?
months.
Oh, 6 months?
Yeah. So,
One time causing some damage to some,
yeah.
Equipment.
Yep. And they got some server equipment the last time.
I guess what I want to ask, why wasn't it put in the budget? Why wasn't this a budgeted item?
Not something, I didn't think it would go out again after it went out back in November, I guess. It went out again, and,
the budget would have already been done the first time it went out.
yeah, it would have been done for this year, but we could have probably tried to put it in for next
But
year,
you're-
but I just didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was gonna happen, it happened again, and it's like, yeah, we need something for a backup.
It says that you're going to budget this out of capital improvement funds,
Yes, sir.
and I guess there's ample funding for this. Motion to approve, well, do you have any question, I guess? Just gonna make the answer.
You placed exhaust.
It'll be a split unit system, kind of like what's in there now, so there's no real exhaust. We'll have to pipe the condensate drain outside. But with this system, it'll be easier because they only have to poke a couple holes through the wall, and then they just hang the unit on the wall.
Is this something you're gonna go out for bid, or you just get a price quote?
I got a quote from Denny,
Mhm.
their on-call contractor, for $7,607.12. So I'd just like to use him if I could. Seeing we've already bid him for on-call stuff.
I move approval.
Second.
Voting.
Aye.
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 Thank you. My second item,
Is this another one of your little items?
this is a little, well, yeah, another one.
Yeah, if you call this a little item, I don't want to see your big ones.
So when we were working on the roof last week, we were walking around with the contractor. It was brought up about the roof drains up there. We have some ponding issues around our roof drains. It was brought up, our roof drains are probably about a half an inch high on that roof, and they need to be dropped down. Had the plumber come out this week, the roofer's plumber, and look them over and determine, yes, we probably need new roof drains up there. So I would like to get approval for a change order to put new roof drains on the Justice Center roof and the
jail roof. This will be dropping down the roof drains. The reason why it's so high is because they have to put new roof drain assemblies in, and the assemblies aren't cheap. They can't get to the roof deck from down below because there's a sheetrock ceiling above, right below the joist. So they're gonna have to cut the deck, and they're gonna have to go in from up above when they're doing the roof.
I know the roof,
Bringing this up
yeah.
today so they can.
I know the
get it
roof
done.
is a budgeted item, but evidently these drains are not a budgeted item.
No, they were not. When we did the health department, we reused what was there, and I anticipated doing that again. But like I said in discussions last week and this week, it would be better if we would fix the roof drains while we're here doing the roof
I agree.
than to try to reuse them.
Does the contractor, did he point these out, or did just,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you pointed them out. And we've gotten some estimates back on some of our other projects that we're doing over there. They're anticipated coming in lower than what we budgeted. So my proposal is just to take this out of my budgeted extra items that I had over there for projects.
so it's not going to cost any more money?
No, take it out.
What I do want to ask is, have you contacted the city of Leavenworth? Do we need to contact the city of Leavenworth? Do we need to contact the board over at the Justice Center, to which Don and Clyde, I think, are on that board, or used to be, and to make sure that is the city of Leavenworth going to pay a portion of these drains? And,
I have not contacted the city. It was kind of a time-sensitive deal. When they start ripping off the roof, they're going
Right.
to need to fix them. So
So
I wanted to get up there and
I guess what I'm saying is, we just send the bill to the city of Leavenworth, said, here, pay. I think maybe a phone call to them and explain it to the city manager would be
I
appropriate.
can call him.
Okay, I think that would be appropriate, just to let them know that this is what we've run into, and that it's change order, and you will be billed accordingly.
Okay, I will more certainly do that.
Okay,
The city ordinarily picks up about 18%.
right. Something like that.
I think we do need to contact them.
I do.
Affects their area also.
Right.
What kind of time frame are you on then?
They want to start this tomorrow. So when they start ripping off the roof, they need to do the roof drains.
I noticed-
They start with the roof drains and work out.
I know some of the materials were unloaded out here in the street the other day,
Yes, sir.
and semi-loads of them
Yes.
That wasn't bad, was it?
had traffic blocked. And
Yeah.
anyway, motion to approve.
Second.
Voting?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor. Okay, ready for Mr. Joseph.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
This is case number DEV 17-057, Hayden Gun Shop. It's a special use permit. The Board of County Commission heard this case a couple of weeks ago, and the applicant had an issue with one of the conditions, which is the requirement for a liability insurance. And Mr. Van Paris has actually looked into it, and I'll defer that to him.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I did review the staff file as prepared on this matter. I did attend the public hearing that was conducted on June 27th. I've also had the opportunity to speak personally with Mr. Hayden. He was kind enough to give me a phone call. Commissioners, under Kansas law, the Kansas Tort Claims Act limits your liability for any singular event to $500,000. I know that the county regularly requests certificates of liability insurance naming the county in the amount of $1 million, in some cases more. It appears from the report, as well as information I gleaned from my conversation with Mr. Hayden, that the activities of this business are very limited, that they no longer, I would have been much more concerned about the fact that they used to sell ATVs as opposed to gunsmithing. I would defer to Mr. Hayden to provide you any information, but to my knowledge, there is no amounts of ammunition stored, or large amounts of ammunition stored on the premises. It's been in business for over 15 years without incident. You generally require that condition, $1 million of insurance liability. In this specific instance, Commissioners, I do not think that you'd be putting the county at any undue exposure or liability by either considering waiving that requirement or reducing it from $1 million to $500,000. I have to apologize. I've been trading phone messages with our agent who's been busy, as I have. So I've been unable to meet to where I could quantify to you the cost differential, if any, between $500,000 in insurance or $1 million in insurance, and whether, in fact, this board would want to, looking at the particular circumstances of this specific case, whether you would wish to waive that liability insurance requirement altogether.
Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Also, the board left the public hearing open, so that has to be closed after hearing from the public.
When you say...
We're going to start, we'll open this up for public hearing then?
It was already open,
Okay.
so it's,
So we're just picking up where we left off? Okay, so, yes, sir.
My name's Cecil Hayden. I live at 20319 State Avenue, Tallanoxie, Kansas. I got the gun shop.
Right. The issues of liability insurance?
Well, I wanted to ask him a few questions.
That's fine.
When you say you're gunsmithing, do you repair guns and that kind of thing, or are you
Very
selling?
little, sir. I replace a part or two maybe twice a year.
Yeah, so
I
you
do very-
basically sell new guns or used guns or
I sell both.
both? And you sell ammunition also?
Right.
Okay. And the amount of ammunition that you keep are for different size guns, and I'm sure,
In the last 3 years, I've probably sold 6 boxes of ammunition. I've stated this before, the small gun shops are a thing of the past. I've been doing this for 40 years, and I'm just hard-headed enough, I like doing it. I don't want nobody to tell me Walmart's gonna run me out of business, or Cabela's. I've had, in the last 4 months, I've had 2 customers come in, and they looked around and left. We talked,
yeah.
but it was just, that's the way it is. I haven't really been doing a whole lot, it's just something I enjoy doing. I put 29 years in the military service, and I was around guns all my life, so I kind of wanted to get into it, and I got into it. But there's no money in this stuff anymore. Can't make anything. And I can't get this insurance. I'll tell you, I tried. This liability, I can't even get insurance on my guns out there. I can't. Once you say gun, you're done. Even if you got a pawn shop or something in there, they can do that. But when you say gun shop, they're done.
So it would have been better to say ATV shop.
I might as well, I don't know what to put in there. Come by and shoot the bull with Cecil, that's what it'd be.
I understand your plight, and I guess I'm torn between, the exposure for the county, and I guess what I'd like to see done is to check with maybe our insurance carrier, One Beacon, and also check with Mr. Riley and see if we can work
Waive
some
this.
kind of deal and see if we can waive this. I would be in favor of, but at the same time, not at the expense of the county's exposure and not having insurance on.
And Commissioners, again, I apologize, in between the 27th and today's date, I was unable to do so. I could certainly do so and would be willing to give you a short report on that later. I will state I've looked through the file. Mr. Hyde has complained. He has a business certificate. He even has his emergency plan in the event of tornado, chemical spill, and medical emergency or event of fire. Again, it's a case-by-case basis with respect to special use permits. That's why you have a special hearing for each permit. I'd be happy to check with our insurance carrier and agent and give a report, try to give you a report Monday morning to close this matter up so Mr. Hyde knows how to continue.
I appreciate that.
And perhaps Mr. Hyde can find me that Lee and Enfield Mark III pre-World War I rifle that I asked you about.
You never wrote it down. You said it too quick. I can't find it when you're that quick.
Would it be better to till next Thursday to give you more time?
I'm certain we could have this matter finalized by next Thursday, as well as the general issue of the liability insurance.
Okay. All right.
I would be,
That would be
I'd be,
Okay.
I'd feel better about it.
So, Mr. Chairman, an appropriate motion might be to table the public hearing until a time set for next Thursday.
Okay, so we have to amend the agenda.
Yes.
Okay, well, that need two
Motion,
motions.
yeah, 2 motions to amend the agenda to put.
Mr. Smith, can I?
Yes,
Can I
sir.
say something?
Yes, sir.
I don't really like driving back and forth up here.
I don't think it'd
I
be
don't-
necessary.
I don't-
Okay.
I
don't-
think if we get the blessing from the insurance company, you're good to go.
I agree.
And,
I don't think you need to
I
come.
don't think you need to.
I appreciate that.
And like I said, I haven't seen any of your flyers in my newspaper
No, you
advertising
don't-
ammunition.
You ain't never gonna see
Oh,
no
okay,
flyer.
all right. Well, no sales. There's not gonna be any sales. Okay, all right. But yeah,
Unless you're the lawyer for the county, if he wants a gun, we'll fight him. maybe.
yeah. I'm sure you will. But no, like I said, it's once the insurance company's contacted and we're good.
Okay.
All right,
All right, sir.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, now we'll need a
This
motion.
is really, but this is a renewal of special use.
Yeah, so evidently, I guess he would have had the insurance, the liability insurance before?
No, that time it was not
Well, it
required.
wasn't a requirement from the county at that time. Okay, I see where he's getting caught up. Okay.
Yeah,
We throwed some more regulations
Right.
out there. All right. So, all right. We'll get it, we'll amend the agenda, get it Thursday, and somebody will notify.
so we have to have 2
A
motions.
motion to,
Motion to amend the agenda to put
And a
Mr.
public
Hayden,
hearing.
public hearing on Thursday, what's the date?
17th.
17th.
Second.
voting. Aye.
Aye.
And then, you need a motion to direct staff to contact the insurance company?
I so
No, that's
moved.
just a consensus?
Yeah,
We just need to make a motion to extend the public hearing.
Okay.
yeah. Motion to extend the public hearing till the
August
17th.
Second.
Voting. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. Now we're ready for sewer district number 3, public hearing. Guess at this time.
Aye. Well,
Guess this time we'll go out of regular session and enter into the sewer district public hearing. Sewer district number 3.
yes. Vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I guess anyone wishes somebody to speak on this issue or?
David?
Mr. Chairman, members of this board, again, good morning. Commissioners, the duty of the Board of County Commissioners with respect to serving as the Board of Directors of Sewer District Number 3 is to annually cause an appropriate assessment for any debt of the district, as well as to set the appropriate operational and maintenance charges to be assessed within that district. You previously had this matter before you. The issue that was unresolved at the conclusion of the prior hearing on this was whether any payment out of the economic funds for economic development funds of the county would take place to offset the normal assessment to the existing loan to the Kansas Department of Health and Environment that was used to construct the connection to sewer district number 3 to the city of Basel. This matter has been pending before this county since well before 2008. It's been a very lengthy process. I'd like to summarize it quickly, reviewing 3 Attorney General's opinions. As I stated earlier, the county did cause the decommissioning of the lagoon system for sewer district number 3. The district is currently connected to the city of Basel. The city of Basel operates the wastewater treatment facility and annually charges an operation and maintenance fee. That has been determined, and that matter is fixed as per the proposed resolution. The issue is the annual assessment to service the debt obligation of the district with respect to a loan made to it by the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. It's a 20-year loan. I believe we're approximately in the 16th year of that loan,
The sixth.
or actually the 6th. So it extends for time. The issue is whether the county would divide the existing loan obligation as an assessment between the connections within the district as it did last year, or whether the county would wish to make any additional contribution to that debt service. The county has in the past, on 3 occasions, made additional payments out of the Economic Development Fund to this. The general use of county funds for economic development purposes is recognized under Kansas law as being, in certain cases, appropriate. And there's a copy of a resolution, or excuse me, Attorney General's opinion issued back from 1985 that deals with the general principle behind that, and that is any such expenditure must benefit the county as a whole, not a specific group. Subsequent to the issuance of that Attorney General's opinion, another Attorney General's opinion specifically with respect to the topic of sewer districts created pursuant to the statute that created sewer district number 3, and it reads, pursuant to KSA 1927 A02, the Board of County Commissioners has the authority to issue permits to any individual or corporation to build any sewers. The cost of construction shall be borne entirely by the person or corporation contracting for the improvements. And then there's an annual assessment with respect to the payment of those costs. In 2005, 2011, the Attorney General's office issued a follow-up opinion at our request, by ours request the county, specifically with respect to whether the county would be able to overlay a neighborhood revitalization district over sewer district number 3 to enable you to use general economic development funds of the county to pay or partially pay the assessment costs of that. The Attorney General's office was kind enough to reply, and it reads, in review, an area that has been designated as a sewer district pursuant to KSA 27A01 may be subsequently designated as a neighborhood revitalization area if conditions for such a designation currently exist. And in the broadest terms, as I can tell you, because I know this board is familiar with neighborhood revitalization projects that have been undertaken by various municipalities in the county, that means there has to be a blight condition currently existing. And commissioners, this board has, over the decade or more that it has dealt with sewer district number 3, sought to seek relief it could with respect to the burden of connecting sewer district number 3 to the city of Basel to impose upon those property owners. But I must tell you, it is now my opinion that in the absence of any finding that there is a current, as of today, blight condition within the area of sewer district number 3, that any continued or additional contribution of the economic development funds of the county would not be appropriate. There's a more direct state law that deals with how that assessment is to be funded. It's to be funded by an assessment from the territory within sewer district number 3. And that would be my opinion to you with respect to that issue. As this matter last stood, you conducted a public hearing. Again, I do not believe there was any dispute with respect to the annual operation and maintenance charge that the city of Basel had calculated and passed on to your Department of Public Works. The loan schedule to the Kansas Department of Health and Environment is known and was utilized last year. And it is my opinion that the continued contribution of economic development funds of the county to pay for the assessment costs, that is the long-term debt obligation of sewer district number 3, in the absence of a finding that there is a blight situation, a current blight situation, would be inappropriate. The county has worked as many avenues as is possible to try to reduce the cost to this program. I know there's disagreement to that, but I will just tell you, we've beat the bushes, we've beat the drum, and the time for any additional economic development grants from the general funds of the county to this district, I think has come to an end. There's no finding that there's a blight situation in that area.
I don't think anybody was disputing about the decommissioning of the lagoons and paying. I think it was the upsizing of the line that was almost $600,000, and that the school would put in $200,000, and they did. The county put in $200,000, and the city of Bayshore put in $200,000. I think that was the reason for the contributions earlier, the $20,000. And there's no way of these residents to recoup their money in the future when future development occurs. The bottom line is these residents are paying for the upsizing of the line for future development, and that's why the Plan A was chosen, is what I've read here. Am I correct?
Mr. Chairman, as member, excuse me, the Kansas Department of Health and Environment issued an order, and findings of fact, it was a consent agreement actually with the county, and it provided for certain required actions. And Commissioner Smith used the phrase upsizing, and I have no dispute with that. But Leavenworth County was not permitted by Kansas Department of Health and Environment simply to connect the lagoon system then existing sewer district number 3 to the city of Bayshore. It was required to develop a plan, and it reads, for an area south of the city of Bayshore with emphasis on sections 10, 11, 14, 15, and sections 12 and 13 west of Wolf Creek, and it names several other subdivisions. You were required by Kansas Department of Health and Environment to upsize this line, which the county did after engineering studies.
Yeah, we did upsize it, and these residents are paying for it. And there's no way for them to get their money back in the future when future development comes along. And I thought that's what the agreement with everybody putting in $200,000, you know, with the schools being built out there. You have 2 schools. You know, the city of Bayshore was going to benefit from the growth of the area. The county would benefit the growth from the area. And we did upsize the line. And that's where I thought the contributions came from. We did $48,000 worth of in-kind work, decommissioned lagoons, and the previous boards have gave $20,000 3 times. So we're at 108. We're not close to the 200 yet. That was my reasoning for supporting that. Because like I said, I just don't think it's fair for, not is it 96, 98 homeowners to pay for upsizing a sewer line for future development and not being able to recoup their money back. I mean, you know, you're talking it's like $500 and some thousand for upsizing. So it's rounded off 200,000 apiece on these.
Chairman, if I understand what Mr. Harris just said, a recent or the most current Attorney General's opinion says that a county may not use general funds to reduce the cost of upgrading that line unless they can show that it is serving a blighted area.
I don't think there's any blighted areas in Bayshore. It's the fastest growing city in Kansas.
David, did I say that right?
Mr. Chairman, in essence, yes, that's what the opinion states, is that unless there is a finding of a current blight situation, we cannot overlay a redevelopment neighborhood revitalization district over the sewer district and utilize the general economic funds of the county.
Okay. Am I correct, though, that the county did pledge $200,000 toward the upsizing of the line?
I don't believe so. I have not found, I don't know about you, David, but I have not found any And I talked to the mayor of Baser, and he said, bring the document forward. He said, we'll do whatever it says if we signed off on it, but he says, I know we did not sign off on it.
It was a discussion in some of the public hearings, I believe, that was held at different locations.
But I don't believe the city of Baser ever agreed or signed.
No.
No, nobody ever
That's
signed
what-
anything.
that's what Mayor
No,
Brewer-
they never signed anything. But yeah, Mayor Brewer, though, brought forth a plan that was going to be a lot cheaper, and he was a council member at that time, and the county chose not to use that plan specifically because it didn't allow for
Growth.
future development or growth. So the county chose the plan that allowed for future development and upsizing the line.
But there still was no document signed.
Okay. Then what was the reason the county paid $20,000 a year 3 times?
I would have to say I did not vote in favor of that.
I did, and it simply was a contribution to try to reduce the annual payment for the residents.
For upsizing the line.
Well, I can't even say that. I say it was a contribution.
Right.
Trying to defer the annual cost for the residents.
Okay.
David, am I right?
Mr. Chairman, as I mentioned earlier, when you look at the 3 opinions and you try to read them in harmony, I think at the time the county made its contributions, it did so in good faith. It made so in a finding that at that point the project was not completed. But again, from the opinion that was issued on December 5th of 2011, the project's completed. There does not seem to be, or there is no current finding of any blight, so continued use of county general funds to pay the assessment would not be appropriate. And that is my opinion to you this morning.
As I was looking through some of my stack of records, I did happen to run across a resolution that back in 2011, when I first come on this commission, and Commissioner Graber was the chairman at the time. I was a member, and also John Flowers, who's deceased. And in this resolution is 2011-1. It states in here that the Board of County Commissioners offered a one-time contribution of $20,000 to Sewer District Number 3. A one-time, and that was resolution, like I said, 2011-1.
Okay. And there's 2011-41. That doesn't have. Okay.
Let's see. I had it here. Board of County Commissioners offered time contribution of 20
Mhm.
to District Number 3.
Okay. I hadn't seen that one in there.
And there's a resolution
Yeah.
signed.
Yep.
And Janet even signed it.
Okay. So then, what was the last year they offered 20,000? Was that 2014?
Yes.
Yes.
And was there a resolution on that one?
I don't believe there
No.
was a resolution.
It just came up in a public hearing?
Right, because we'd
Like
already,
we're right here
because
now.
we already made this resolution, and that's why I didn't vote on the rest of them.
Okay. Anyone here from the sewer district wishing to speak this time? Is there anybody, how many people are here from the sewer district? Got 1, 2, 3. Okay. I'd like to hear from all of you if that's all right. Name and address.
Larry Van Fleet, 1-857 Terrace Baser. I guess the county needs to decide if you guys want to make a contribution to this or not. And I'd like to know if you're going to, if you're not going to, because I want to go a completely different direction, you know? If you choose not to make a contribution to it, then we need to open up a whole new discussion about assessments and what's fair and what's not. Right now, the people that own the piece of vacant ground are charged zero. They benefit greatly, and by state statute, they're required. You guys are required to make a fair assessment. Okay? We also know the schools are only paying one connection per school when their usage is 10 times that. So I think you'd be required to fix that as well.
On Sewer District 3 miscellaneous documents, it said Plan A, the current plan, most property owners are assessed by the number of connections to the sewer. Some property owners are assessed more due to the water usage and potential development. And in parentheses, it says Basehor Linwood Public Schools and J.R. Evans. Is that being done?
Mr. Chairman, currently the formula of assessment that has been adopted and applied has been per connection. That is, would remain in effect.
Okay, if that's the case, I'm one connection out of the $1.4 million that have been spent. Shouldn't I be assessed one
Yes.
out of the 225 that are available?
225.
Yeah,
We don't have
that's how
98. There's only 98.
The design capacity of the plan is 225. The dollars were spent to produce a sewer system that would accommodate 225. So why am I not being assessed one of the 225 if we want to go travel that way? If we want to do per connection, then I should be assessed one of 225. Divide the total amount spent. I'll correct that a little bit. You know we owe the city of Basehor the $435,000, whatever, so you have to take that off.
Right.
That's on us. Period, end of story. We pay 100% of that. So that gets it down to about somewhere in the neighborhood of $800,000 that were spent to put this sewer system in. That's good for 225. You guys want to go per connection instead of doing the way the state statute recommends by doing it by square foot or assessed value, appraised value, I don't know, whichever one it is. You know, but if you guys choose to go connection, there's 225 connections available, I should be assessed one of those. Instead, right now, you guys are assessing me like 2 something.
Okay. No, I agree. You guys are paying for upsizing the line. I mean, there's no other way of looking at it.
There's absolutely no question. There's no other way to look at it either as well. But the 54-acre piece of property that benefits greatly from this sewer line running right through the middle of it benefits. There's no question. It's a benefit to the property.
Right.
You know, and that's what the state statute requires, is you guys to assess according to benefit received.
But the acreage you're talking about, they're not receiving the benefit. They're still an agricultural entity. They have livestock on there and they have it fenced, and it's still agriculture.
What do you think is going to happen when they sell that piece of ground, Mr. Hall?
Well, I do, and I feel for you because I don't think the law is right, but you know, we have to go by according to the law, and the law doesn't state. It states that the 98 connections are the ones that have to pay the brunt of the bill. I know what's going to happen. In fact, I know 2 things I think is going to happen. Number one, I think the property you're talking about will start to develop. And I think another thing that could happen, that the city of Basehor will annex you after the debt is paid off. But
yeah,
there is nothing, our hands are tied. I mean, granted, I think it's unfair too, but at the same time, it is what it is, and we have to stand by it.
I think we need to divide by 225. I don't know where the rest of the assessment gets picked up. I'll let you guys work that out. You know, or we can go square footage, drop back and go square footage. That's the state statute, Mr. Holland. It says right in there, by square footage or assessed value of all property, and it says improved or unimproved. I know you've never read the state statute,
I
but
have read the state statute.
David, would you respond to that?
Well, Mr. Chairman, KSA 27A07 sets out following manners in which the assessment may be paid. That is for the debt that we're talking about. Equally per square foot against all property in the district, against the assessed valuation of the lots and pieces of property in the district with or without regard to improvements thereon. 3, any combination of 1 and 2, or in any other reasonable manner which will result in imposing substantially equal burdens or shares of cost upon property similarly benefited. This board made a decision to allocate the assessment based on the number of connections, which is what the current formula would call for.
Does that violate the statute?
I believe it complies with the statute, Commissioner Burton.
well, it would probably apply to the state statute if I was paying 1 of 225, but not 1 of the current situation.
Has anyone else got anything to say? Please come forward.
I'll just say something else real quick.
Okay.
You know, I think you guys should look at taking some of this sales tax money that we've got flowing and go and send that piece of ground to develop and it'd solve all the problems. You know, because right now, they have no incentive to develop it. We spent all this money, put a sewer line through the middle of their property. They're gonna sit back and wait till it's all paid off. They're gonna pocket the $500,000 that all the residents have paid for. And down the road we go. Mr. Holland, would you be in favor of doing that? Using
Personally,
countywide dollars
you know,
to send that piece of ground to develop?
Well, reverse this. Put yourself in that piece of property. What would you do? Would you volunteer to pay all those connection fees?
I'm not volunteering to pay any connection fees, but I'm paying them.
But what I'm saying is, if you owned that piece of property, would you volunteer to make those
I'd be
connections?
laughing all the way to the bank if I owned that piece of property.
My point exactly. They're good business people, and I don't agree with it, but it's state statute, and David's done a fine job researching this, and you know, maybe personally I don't like it, but
Would you be in favor of spending money to incent that piece of property to develop?
no, I wouldn't.
You don't want to do anything.
My name is Gary Umscheid. I live at 17956 157th Street in Bay Sewer District number 3. I have written comments if you want to get them as a matter of your record. That's a copy for you. I would supplement it based on the conversation that Larry Valenta just was having with you, and that is that when the decision was made as to which approach would be used to apportion the costs, we were given in advance of that, at public hearing, the statement from the Board of County Commissioners that we would be involved in and aware of the conversations and discussions leading up to that decision. If you check your records, and I have tried checking the records all the way back to 2011, whatever, I found no record anywhere that says there was a public hearing that actually discussed the method of apportionment resulting in the decision that was made. And I find that very unfair. If we're talking about fairness, to me that is unfair, and it does not give our members and the sewer district due process in the entire thing. I would supplement the written thing with respect to the manner in which both the debt reduction, debt service, and the operation and maintenance costs are apportioned. Much like Larry, I believe we're being unfairly treated, and my suggestion would be, absent going with his, which I don't think you will, but I wish you would, the 225. What is wrong with looking at actual equivalent usage rather than an approximation which was made back in 2008 or thereabouts that said the elementary school was 5, the middle school would be 15. We know from the point in time that the city sewer system connected us that annually they do in fact adjust the charge to the individual property owners based on actual usage. Why cannot this commission accept and use a similar approach rather than just based on connections? Why can we not use actual usage in terms of making a fairer allocation of the cost to all the members of the district? Finally, the city of Basehor has given a $33,000, I believe is the figure, annually for the last several years. Has any effort been made to get them to show how they came up with that figure and to apply a test of reasonableness to that figure? Thank you.
Excuse me, sir. Were you always under the impression that the county would contribute $200,000 toward this project for the upsizing of the line?
That was my understanding back when, yes.
And it was discussed in public hearings? Or
I think it was
in meetings?
I think it was an approach that was discussed. I don't, and I'm sure Commissioner Holland is correct, I don't know that it was ever put in writing.
No, it was never put in writing, but it's it's mentioned several times. And,
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm Mike Boyd. I'm representing the school district. I'm a retired assistant superintendent there, and I was in charge of some construction projects and stuff. We went through the middle school construction, the one we're doing now. The board wanted me to come today and basically convey to you that they would like for the system to stay in place that they have now. They feel that they've made their $200,000 contribution. How all this shook out and who said what, I don't know, but we made the $200,000 contribution in 2011. And what their concern is that this would be reevaluated, rewritten, whatever it is, and then the 18 additional connections would be charged back to us. That's what the $200,000 was for in the first place, was in lieu of those 18 connections. We're paying for 2. If you take today's rates, the $614.40, each one of our buildings is going to basically pay about $12,288 for the life of this assessment. You add that to the $200,000, and we're at $225,000. 18 connections, additional connections at that rate, are about $21,000 more than we've already paid. So if you rewrite this, or reassess it, whatever you want to call it, what happens to the $200,000 that we've already paid? That was done in lieu of the 18 connections. So somewhere, something's got to happen with that, because it would void, and they make the first agreement void.
No,
It wouldn't be in
what I've
place.
read, the school district made a deal. They put up their money.
And on their point is they would like for it to stay the same, because if we're assessed for the 18 connections, even if it's over 13 years, that's another $143,000. And right now, what they're paying is about 16% of the total loan. If those other 18 connections are assessed to the school district, that would be 26% of the total loan.
So
And then you've got-
the $200,000 for each entity was discussed in county,
According
city,
to,
school
according to what I've
district.
heard and what I saw at the time, it was.
That's correct.
But whether it was in writing or not, I couldn't tell you. Larry, I don't know anything about that. I just know
No,
that
I can't find anything that's in writing, but I see it was discussed, and like I said, the school district put their money up. And what kind of deal they made to do it, but they still put the money up at front, but so they paid down the temporary loan, and then it put the rest toward the not borrowing as much from the revolving loan fund. So the school district did what they're supposed to do.
And their concern is that there would be a reassessment and the 18 would be charged.
Okay.
And then that would create, we're talking about fairness. You're going from 16% of the loan to 26% of the loan. That's not fair either, because you're assessing all the patrons in our district.
I think if everybody would have put their 200,000 in like the school district, we wouldn't be having this hearing today.
That's probably true.
So
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? We haven't heard from former Commissioner Lewinsky.
Don Levinsky, 32421 255th Street, Easton, Kansas. I thought this, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I thought this hearing was to set up the side of whether you're gonna kick in more money for the sewer district.
It is.
Appears like it's turning into a reassessment of the sewer district and everything. Anyway, I'm here concerned to voice my opinion is, when this thing was set up, it wasn't for the rest of us out in the county to pay for somebody else's sewer. I have a septic system in my place. I spent over $1,000 this year getting it cleaned out, had to dig it up and everything, clean the septic tank. Did anybody help me pay for that?
I'll trade you.
Nobody helped me pay when I put the thing in to start off with. This is, you guys live in an area you don't want to call a town, but yet you like what you call the town privileges. All you have to do is be annexed into the city of Basehor, but you don't want to do that because you don't want to be the rules, but yet you need that sewer when you flush that stool that it's going to go. I don't have that privilege. When I do mine, if something happens, hey, it's in my hands. You have milked the other part of the county citizens for the few years to help pay for a few that fought this so bad to start off with. If they hadn't have fought it, it would have went through at half the price. I happen to sit on that board in the whole south end of sewer district number 3. And, it was what the fighting did that caused the state to come in and said, you do this. Took all the options out of everybody's hands. So, and why are you charging the rest of us out in the county? I have to pay for somebody else's sewer district when nobody helped me pay for anything. You talk about upscale, anytime you drive down the road someplace, that road's been upscaled so you can drive on it for somebody else. When you have a road down there that the county takes care of, and I don't have blacktop where I'm at, I just have a rock road. I have to mow alongside my road all the time. Do you have any other questions?
When you're talking about, were you around when they were choosing which plan to use? Plan A or Plan B?
2008.
I left in 2007.
Okay, all right.
But that discussion had already started and everything.
Right.
But the hearings went
Right.
on and on. It was on long before I left, the start of them. But it's basically the state come in and said, this is what we knew that was going to happen. Forced the issue, forced the thing. And it's a privilege, just like the water. Somebody put the water line in, so you guys have the water,
Right.
When I put my water line in on public, I had to pay from the neighbor down to my place, the whole line, and it was put in 2 inches where I only needed really a 3/4 inch line. But that's the rules. Water line, when they're going to put a 2-inch line in out of rural load. So somebody else, when they come in, they've got that. But I still had to pay for the line over half a mile. Yeah, that's tough, but hey, if I want it,
Good point.
I had to do it. Other questions?
When you were a commissioner, if you would have gave your word that you would pledge $200,000 to a project, would you honor that?
Yes, if I'd gave my word, but I don't think anybody gave their word. That was just discussion.
Okay.
There was a lot of discussion on everything.
Okay.
And it's, you know, this is the point that,
But,
so,
all right.
well, thank you
Well,
for your
thank you.
time.
Thank you for coming to the meeting today. Mr. Van Fleet?
Same time, he talks about his water line. You know, the phone company, they put 100 pair of lines down every road in the county, but you don't pay for it. You know, they absorb that cost until it's time for enough people to come onto it and pay for it. I come before this commission one time, standing right here at this podium, beating this same drum a year before this thing ever got built, and I said, please, gentlemen, don't build it. There's nobody that wants it. Nobody wants it outside of this building. Can't remember his name, the previous commissioner, not Flower, Tillotson, told me,
Yeah, J.C.
J.C. Tillotson, he told me, he said, that's not true, Larry. He said, the school district has been championing this plan for a year now. They want it because they spent $40 million on new school buildings and they got to fill them up. Their classrooms are empty. So they're championing this plan, which I said to myself, I'm sitting here thinking about it, I can't really imagine the school board thinking we're going to screw our current citizens in favor of new ones. So I made an appointment with the superintendent. I went and sat down across the table from him, and I said, are you guys really in support of this plan? And he said, we are, and we're putting our money where our mouth is. We intend on spending $375,000. That was what their estimated cost was, their 20 connections and their $200,000. You've said it, Doug, and it's been said many, many times, as the school put their $200,000 in. My question is, did they put their $200,000 in, or as Janet says, they bought out 18 connections with it? So did they put $200,000 in, or did they buy out 18 connections with it?
I'd say they made a deal to put their $200,000 in, and the county accepted their deal. Is what I see. I mean,
So are they being assessed 2 connections? Did the 2 connections have anything to do with the $200,000?
they are being assessed 2 connections.
Right, instead of 20.
Yes.
We know by looking at the Fonzie, even as far back as the Fonzie, they was responsible for 20 connections.
Right.
But somehow or another, that 20 went to 2.
Right.
Instead of dividing by 116, we're now dividing by 98.
Right.
So, did they put 200,000 in, or did they buy connections? That's my question.
Yeah. But, you know, they were anxious. Look, from reading it, it looks like they were very anxious to get the $200,000 to pay off a $98,000 temporary note and to apply the rest to pay down so they wouldn't have to borrow as much on the revolving loan.
Right.
Is what it looks like. I wasn't here. Am I correct on that?
That's a correct.
So-
That's a correct statement.
Basically,
I think
yeah, there
Janet
was a
and I-
deal made.
Janet and I and Clyde worked on that.
There
That's
was
the reason for it.
There was a deal made.
You wasn't
That's
even
correct.
here, Mr. Holland.
I was too.
No, you wasn't. John Flower was here.
Yeah, I know. I was with John Flower.
I guess it was
J.C.
maybe
Tell.
Bixby that wasn't here.
Yeah. Get your facts straight.
So,
What's that?
I said, you need to get your facts straight. I was here. I referenced on this resolution where I signed in 2011.
okay.
So is there any appetite for reassessment?
Not in my books. In fact, I'll make a motion if it's appropriate at this time.
Yeah, you can make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we rescind the agreement of contributing $10,000 to Sewer District 3 on July 24th, 2017.
You know, I might be way out of line, all of you gentlemen. I'm going to second the motion. But at the same time, I would like to say, is it possible to look at reassessing this situation? Can we look, I mean, there are a lot of lots out there that are valuable lots and they're not paid.
Commissioners, the determination of how to assess was made previously and it was by per connection. I can give you by way of illustration, if it were done by square footage, one piece of property, a particular person or owner would have been charged in excess of $48,000 a year.
I understand.
That isn't true, because we owe 48, we get it down below 48 before we pay a
Would
dime.
you let him finish, please?
Commissioner, the consideration by the board, prior boards was that the formula was by connection. That agreement was reached with the school district. They made a significant contribution, which allowed the district to borrow less money from KDHE, which over the life of the loan was an economic benefit. I would suggest that the matter of the assessment has proceeded to the point where reconsideration of it would not be worth it.
So we have a motion and a second. Voting?
Aye.
Nay.
Aye. I guess I would like to ask you, Commissioner Smith, you said you would listen to this, and if we found that it was not appropriate for us to do this from the state and the Attorney General, that this would not go forward, which it's not.
It's not going forward.
Well, so you're still in favor of it, even though it's not basically legal for us to do it?
It passed. I'm saying I don't think it's right that 98 people pay for upsizing a line for future development and they can't get their money back. I would be for looking at other options here of how we assess it.
Yeah.
I mean, I would look at anything.
Yeah, I would too.
But I do know this board put $20,000 in 3 times. So was it legal then?
Well, that's what I think we need to, I think David answered that already, but if you want to, we can ask for an AG's opinion for back then and see what he says, you know. If we've been doing wrong, all this is gonna do is stir up more trouble, and we could actually reassess the lots out in this district, and
Well,
the
I would be
98 lots
interested in looking at
the 98
different
lots.
scenarios, like you said, square footage or water usage or
But
whatever.
But if we get an AG's opinion, then the AG may say, no, you can't
Well, we
give
can look
them.
at other options without an
Yeah.
AG opinion. Yes, sir, Mr. Novinsky?
Out of curiosity, what is the hookup fees?
To the city of Basin.
To when a new home is built?
Yes.
284.48 per lot. That's what it was on the
How much?
2000. The Baser annual maintenance tax is $284.48 per
He's talking
lot.
about a connection
I'm talking
fee.
about a connection.
If a new house is
See, the
being built.
connection on all these houses
And service.
was paid for in this loan. Am I correct? All right, when you hook up to the sewer now, that sewer, what is the initial cost just to hook into it?
We paid $4,450, but that money all goes to the sewer, to the city of Basin. Nothing to the loan.
What does it cost now for a new person when they take a lot and build it to hook into it?
Well, to pay the loan back, it costs absolutely nothing. They just start
paying on the assessments.
Instead of being divided by 98, it'd be divided by 99.
Why isn't there a hookup fee?
That's a perfect question.
I mean, that's, you know,
I've said that for years, you know,
I
that
mean, why isn't there a hookup fee for all those new people? In the
Is
city
that
of
correct,
Leavenworth,
Trevor? Is there a hookup fee?
That would be coordinated with the city of Baser.
That has nothing to do with us.
Oh, okay.
No, but what he's saying is, and I've questioned this before, that I think it'd be a great idea for the county to go ahead and invest dollars in the sewer district today, invest them today, and then, like he says, assess new connections down the road to make that money back. You get it back.
I don't know that, David, is that possible to do? Because I think I've made that inquiry to you several years ago.
Commissioners, this matter's been looked over, this ground has been plowed many times. We even looked at whether or not we could put a balloon payment on the end of it with KDHE, and they said no. We've looked, I believe, at every viable option. And it's an unfortunate reality. We were ordered to do something by the state. We had to comply with that state order. It did end up with a system whereby we're charging per connection rather than by square footage or assessed valuation.
Which isn't fair. The state statute doesn't say a word about connections. It doesn't even mention them as a possibility. I will guarantee you guys that state statute was written for exactly the reason what you're doing here. Because somewhere along the line, somebody got free sewer, and it wasn't fair. So that state statute got brought into effect. I bet there's not another sewer district in the state of Kansas that vacant ground doesn't get assessed. Now, Mr. Graber, let me ask you, is it your opinion that that piece of ground's being assessed one connection?
Repeat, I didn't hear you.
Is it your opinion, your understanding that that piece of vacant ground is being assessed one connection?
Yes. It's my understanding.
We had this conversation last time I was in here, and you said you thought it did. Mr. Van Paris assured you that it did, and when we left the meeting, I asked him to identify the parcel, and he assured me that that was not your understanding.
Nor do I agree with it.
One connection.
They are not, Mr. Graber. They absolutely are not. There's 96 homes and 2 schools, and nothing on the piece of vacant ground.
Yes, sir.
I think
I
Clyde,
went through parcel by parcel by parcel last evening, and I absolutely agree with Larry's statement. The vacant ground is not assessed any connection.
Because it's connected to the home, is that the property's attached to the home?
The property is listed under the property owner's name, but it does not appear on the listing of 96 or
Right.
whatever
But is the-
units that are shown here.
Is it the house in one large parcel? Is that large parcel separate from the house?
I don't know.
I
As
don't
far
know.
as I can determine, it is separate. There were 3 different parcels assessed to the property owner, the name of the property owner. I have another question, and that is, if you all were to consider a different way of assessing, would there be due process and public hearings where the people of the district would be allowed to participate in those discussions, contrary to the way this was done previously?
I would say absolutely.
yeah.
That would be different.
Absolutely, and I hope that it would be in the evening to where the people that are going to work every day can make that.
Thank you, sir.
I think what he's saying is that this assessment formula all got generated behind closed doors.
Yeah.
You know, we never had any opportunity to have any input into it. We just come to our public hearing one day and it's like, here's what we're gonna do. The school district had been offered their sweetheart deal, they took it, put their $200,000 in. We had no say, no opportunity to say anything about it until, you know, it was already done.
Well, it looks like this year's assessments are what they are, and I would encourage someone to get the ball rolling on looking at some other options for next year.
I'd like to fix them this year.
Yeah, but I think we're too late this
Why?
year because of the budget. And obviously, we don't have the support here.
I'm tired of paying.
Yeah.
And it's not just me, it's the whole neighborhood. I mean, we're getting screwed so bad, it's not even funny.
Well, like I said, nobody can deny you guys are paying for upsizing the line for future development.
Well, it's worse than that. It's we're
Yeah.
paying for upsizing the line and giving sanitary sewer benefits to that piece of vacant ground. It was a horrible plan to start with. That old saying, when you choose to deceive, what a tangled web we weave. That's why we're here today,
Mhm.
because it just wasn't done honestly and upfront.
Well,
And I think it'd be a golden opportunity, Mr. Graver, to fix it today. Why not fix it today? Why kick the can down the road?
We can't fix it today. We have to get, I'm saying, I'm willing to look at that and approach it, but it certainly can't be done today.
Well, can we put the 10,000 back in until we,
No.
why?
I think we've heard from our attorney, and we cannot do that.
You've done it for 3 years, Mr. Holland. You know darn good well it doesn't have anything to do with whether you can or
And
can't.
as I said.
It isn't such a thing as can or
As I
can't,
said-
it's will or won't.
As I said, we can ask for an AG's opinion today. What if that comes back that says we cannot give those 3 payments? What do we do with those 3 payments? We put them back in the sewer district and your payment goes up even higher. So myself, I suggest leaving that dog alone.
Mr. Van Paris, is it possible to relook at this area, come up with a different way of assessments so that the vacant lots pay the same as the others?
Well, Mr. Chairman, again, the state law allows you latitude with respect to how you calculate the assessment. The practical issue is if you have a piece of vacant ground, who's going to make the payment on that?
The owner.
Well, that was looked at the initial hearings on this matter, which were public hearings, and it was determined at that time, given the structure of the system that was mandated by the state and through the agreement with the city, that to charge by square footage would not have been fair, and that the more fair conception was to charge by connection. That was the formula that was adopted.
Do you happen to know, David, just for the sake of my curiosity, how many lots are in this vacant piece of property?
there is no plat.
I don't believe
It's not platted. So
It had been platted previously and had been withdrawn, and there was 108 in the original plat.
And so if we have, take Larry's recommendation of 108, what would the fee be for that parcel that has no development on it?
Well, it would be roughly 108 times whatever the annual payment for the loan is divided. And when it was looked at, the then board and prior boards determined that was not a fair assessment.
Right, exactly.
Charged by equal benefit. At the time, the most fair value was to do it by connection.
Let me ask this question. Why am I being assessed for the portion of this sewer system that does not benefit me? I benefit from one connection out of the 225. Explain to me why I don't benefit from the other 224. There's no way I didn't yesterday, I don't today, and I won't tomorrow benefit from them in any way, shape, or form, but I'm being assessed for them.
And I think that's
Why
what the
am I being
contributions
assessed for?
were for. And the pledge, not pledge, but they discussed $200,000.
Right.
And that's because, everywhere you read, upsizing the line for future development. But you guys have no way of getting your money back when development starts. The only thing to do is if they do it tomorrow, you lower you got to divide it by,
Right.
so build a house, you got 99 paying instead of 98.
Well, that's the reason I suggested.
And there's probably no vacant lots in
There
your
aren't.
subdivision right now.
That's why I say we take some sales tax dollars and we incent that piece of ground to develop.
You'll probably see Basher build another school before you see a development there.
Well, hopefully they aren't on the sewer district.
Well, then I'm sure they will be.
Well,
I mean, this looks like the campus now out there. Maybe that's what that 54 acres will be for, another school. But
why don't we
that's just
divide by
one connection,
225,
though.
Mr. Graver? I'm just curious.
What'd you say?
Why can't we divide by 225?
I've already said, Larry,
Yes.
I'm willing to look at this and move ahead. Now, what more do you want?
Well, I mean, I'd
It
like
isn't going to
something
be
this
done
year,
today.
please.
It's got to be looked at. It's got to be figured out how it would be assessed? And is there a way to change it once it's done? It isn't going to be done today.
Who would take the lead on looking at other options? Would that be our staff, or would that be members of the sewer district? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, as I stated, this is a small portion of the file that the county has generated on sewer district number 3. I would suggest that this board and prior boards have been anything but callous with respect to the treatment of the people. We've looked at every option. We've tried to create options. If you really want to look for a final solution to some of the problems, it would have to come from the state level. And I'm not saying that that won't occur. If there's any change to state law, Commissioner Graber, I'd certainly bring that to the board's attention. Your counsel at the time would as well. The bottom line, though, is this. When a home is connected to a sewer system, there is a cost involved. Is it a septic system? There's that cost involved. It's to a public wastewater treatment system. There's a cost involved. That cost is unavoidable. It's only a question of who pays it and over how long. We've looked at every option that is lawfully available to us. We've tried to create new options, and we're told no. But Commissioner Graber, if there is any change in state law that would afford any opportunity to provide some additional relief, that certainly be looked at.
David, I'm not in any way jumping on you or anybody. I'm just saying, there's a lot of ground out there that is not being assessed. The sewer line is there to serve, but I think if you look, there hasn't been a new home built out there for...
There is no lots left.
There's no lots
It
left.
has to be platted.
And see that parcel that Larry keeps talking about that evidently was platted, and they've taken the plat away. They now have livestock on there, cattle. It's considered farm ground, and I was under the assumption that they bought a sewer hookup for the house out there, and is that not correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, and
The
so
home is.
so
You know, it's not up to the county
Right.
to develop that ground.
Right.
It's up to the homeowner, you know.
you can't go out there and force him to develop that ground. You could go out there and say, well, here, we'll give you all this money and you develop it. Oh, well, I'll do it then. Well, we can't, that's not feasible for us to do. And I think the individual that has the property has to develop it.
Correct.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes, sir.
The school district's not in the land development business.
We understand that.
We don't have anything to do with what's being developed in Mesa or the area. All we do is when there's the need for kids in the schools, we've got to supply a building. In Mesa right now, there's a possibility in the next 5 years to be almost 1,000 new homes.
I think you are correct. I think you're going to be looking at another school.
And that's going to cause more buildings to be built because they're north of 2440. Both of them are. And both of those elementary schools opened about 8 years ago. When we split them, about 220 kids. They're running 330 to 340 right now. Their capacities they're about 85% capacity now. The middle school's growing about 240 or 50 kids. All we do is react to what the developers put in, and we build buildings where we have a need for the students.
And you're probably going to be building some more
That's
buildings.
exactly right.
I don't see it slowing down any.
Nope, I don't either.
Mesa's really growing.
I think Tonganoxie will get some of the overflow too, and I think they're going to be growing. So,
Okay.
I think maybe something to just take into consideration in all this is the way a typical development would happen, like in a city. A developer would come in and approach the city about opening up a new development. They would go in and lay out what the development's going to look like. That's the plat. There would be certain requirements for providing sewer, water, whatever. And then that's what they would be responsible for, the developer, for that development. If the city required upsizing, so let's say this is there's a hopscotch where there's an open piece of ground, and they need to extend utilities to that subdivision. If the city required upsizing because of that, the city would pick up the cost of the upsizing. In this case, it's not inside of the city, it's inside the county. At the time of development, you have a requirement, a development outline that says this is what's responsible and this is who's going to pick up what. Everybody signs off on the agreement and that's what happens. But the difference is the cities have sewer districts, sewer systems that have the ability to absorb that cost, and then when you come in with new development, you pay a connection fee, which is what was discussed a little bit ago. The county is not in the sewer business, and we don't have that fund. We don't have an ability to recoup that when that development happens. So that's why we are where we are. And there was no agreement that was signed that said that's what was going to happen. That 6-7 years ago when this all happened, that's what needed to take place and it didn't. We're talking and bringing something up continuously every year that happened 6 years ago, 7 years ago. It was resolved, whether we liked the way it was resolved or not, it was resolved. And we continue to bring it up and just open it back up. And I think your attorney has showed you it's been looked at, it's been evaluated, every possible scenario has been considered, and the board chose the one that they felt was the most equitable at the time.
At the time.
Is there any benefit if the city would annex that subdivision
Is there any benefit to the
to
sewer
the
district?
homeowners?
There's not. Not right now, not for the sewer, not
Well,
for this issue, there's not.
I think it will be once this debt's paid
But
off.
if the city annexes it though, that doesn't change the allocation of funds. It just changed who's responsible
Well, but I
to
mean,
make
if they
that
would
decision.
annex out there, it may
They would be
speed up
responsible for collecting the
possible,
funds.
It may increase
encourage some
development, which
development.
would then help, obviously, every new house that goes out there splits that by one more. But I don't think an annexation is going to help the current situation unless it entices in development.
There's a question I'd like to ask, and I don't know who to ask it to, but I talked to a developer down at Baser, and because I've been getting ready for this meeting, and I asked him because he had developed a subdivision, kind of like what's it called?
Glenwood?
Glenwood. I've forgotten the name, all I remember is Sewer District 3.
Development.
So anyway, he developed something similar to Glenwood. Only thing he did was he put the streets in, he put the curbing in, he put the sewer in, and he hooked up to the Baser Sewer District. He did all that. And I guess what I'm getting at, when he went to sell his lots were $5,000 higher than I believe what the lots are for Glenwood. And that's why, because he paid the upfront charges, but then they paid for them through purchasing the lots. It took him longer to sell his lots than it did Glenwood because they were at cheaper lots. So some way or another, the developer's gonna figure out a way to get his money back. And I think this developer didn't do any of that, and
Well, I think this developer got a lot of his money back,
yeah,
so, but.
but he's in the business to make money
Right,
too.
well, no, I understand that, but like I said, it's just that there's no way for these folks to recoup the upsizing of the line. I think that's the only issue I would see would be an
Yeah,
issue.
it's a bad
As far as
thing.
the connections and assessments, I said the bottom line is they are going to pay for upsizing the line for future development, and they have no way of getting their money back. Yes, sir, Mr. Vinsky.
I stand back here. I'm curious, what was the upsize on that line?
$585,000.
What was the physical upside?
It was to allow for 225 houses.
What size pipe was it?
Oh, I'd have to look through there. You know off the top of your head, Trevor? 10 inch?
I believe it's a 10 inch.
10 inch.
Installed, the minimum size they could have installed was 8 inch.
Right.
2 inch
Or
upgrade.
the 2 inch up just for the line?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But using a forced main,
Well,
I mean a gravity.
Gravity.
Gravity instead of a force main.
But did that mean you had to dig a bigger hole to put a
Deep.
10-inch pipe in or that
And
8-inch pipe?
deeper because it's gravity. It costs a lot more money.
Gravity wasn't part of the upsize. That all went with it. I'm talking about the difference between, basically what you're talking about is the cost of a 10-inch pipe versus the cost of an 8-inch pipe.
No, it was the plan they chose. The plan B could have went in the right of way and been a force main for a lot less money, about what, 20% less or something, but it wouldn't have allowed for any future development. The gravity line allowed for future development, and it was about $600 or $585,000 difference. And so that's where everybody come in with 200,000.
For years, doesn't they always realize that a gravity line in the long run is cheaper than force mains?
Yes, for operating costs, you're absolutely right about electricity, stuff like that, yes. And maintenance on pumps, yes. So, anyway, I guess we're ready to close this portion of the public hearing. And commissioners, would you agree?
I agree.
All right, we'll close the portion of Sewer District 3's public hearing and return to regular session. Anything else in regular session? Oh, not Trevor. Get more money, Trevor?
Trevor? I was gonna say.
Another change order for Trevor.
No, we ain't doing it.
Or no more Trevors?
Since we've concluded the public hearing for sewer district number 3, we will need to pass the resolution.
Okay.
And what would that new number be? 51. All right, so it'll be resolution 2017-51, authorizing the current cost to sewer district number 3 without the $10,000
Right.
contributed by the county.
Right.
Do you have a resolution number?
It's 2017-51.
Motion to approve 2015-17-51.
Second.
Voting. Aye.
Aye.
Ready to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Well, the only thing,
Oh,
I can see the frustration of the people out there, really do. And I wish there was some way to address it, but apparently we can't.
no,
You'd have to start at the state level, wouldn't we, though?
it'd make a lot of work for you.
I don't know. I mean, I just don't know.
Until that ground is platted, your hands are tied.
And that's what,
It's
that's
very
why they,
unfortunate that
that's why they
they
unplatted
are
it.
paying for future development.
Right.
It's very unfortunate.
But they're just doing good business. I mean, granted, we don't like it, but like I asked Larry, what would he do if he was in that situation? And he said, I'd be making money.
No.
It still doesn't make it not right.
No, it's not right.
No.
It's not right.
But
I
we're
mean,
stuck
I'm
with it.
sure it will never happen again.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody learned from this, and I don't see it ever happening again because I don't think the public will let it happen again.
Well, at the time, we thought getting $200,000 from the school was really good. It reduced the debt and the.
Well, I think it was.
Developed and.
I think it was. I think, it's just a deal.
It did reduce their payments.
Yeah.
And the three of us here, right here, can attest to that.
So, okay.
And John Flower at the time really felt that that would be a move toward the future development of that area.
But it hasn't.
And it hasn't developed, I know.
There hasn't been a new home out in that area
No.
for.
There's never been any. So, but anyway, we've got a year to look at it. So, got a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Voting, aye.
Aye.